wonderful students. I welcome you to this class. Our topic for today is the Second Republican Constitution of 1979. Today we are looking at the Second Republican Constitution of 1979. Of course, you know this constitution is presidential constitution. It is the constitution that brought in Shehu Shagari as the first executive president of Nigeria. In this video, I will be teaching you the main features of the 1979 Republican Constitution. Also, you shall be taught the various merits and demerits of the Second Republican Constitution. Again, it is expected that after watching this video, you should be able to differentiate between the 1979 Constitution and 1963 Republican Constitution. You should be able to give the differences between these two constitutions. Watch this video. Hello, students. You are welcome to class. Our topic for today is the Second Republican Constitution of 1979. Today we are looking at the Second Republican Constitution of 1979. Of course, you are aware that this constitution gave Nigeria presidential system of government. Before we proceed, let's look at the lesson objectives. What are the lesson objectives? That is, those things you are expected to know. Lesson objectives. By the end of this lesson, you should be able to first discuss the main features of the Second Republican Constitution, highlight the merits and demerits of the Second Republican Constitution of 1979. Finally, identify the differences between the 1963 and 1979 constitutions. So you should know the 1963 Constitution and then the 1979 Constitution and give the discrepancies. Let's look at what the 1979 Constitution is all about. How did it start? 1979 Presidential Constitution. Either you call it Presidential Constitution or Republican Constitution. 1979. Of course, you could see the picture of Lieutenant General Olusegun Obasanjo. He was the person that ensured that this constitution came alive. So it was the military government of Obasanjo that established a constitution drafting committee. And this committee was chaired by Chief Rotimi Williams. And the CDC, that is Constitution Drafting Committee, came up with certain reports about how the new constitution should be like. Beyond that, the administration or regime of Obasanjo formed Constituent Assembly. And this Constituent Assembly decided to work on the report that was published by the CDC. And the Constituent Assembly was chaired by Sir Justice Udo Udoma. And then they came up with their resolution in 1978. And this constitution they came up with was amended by the Olusegun regime, and after some amendments, it was promulgated and became a new constitution of Nigeria in 1979. It became a constitution in Nigeria in 1979 after certain amendments were done on the reports and the constitution of the Constituent Assembly. Let's look at the features of the Constitution. The features. What are the features of 1979 Constitution? Features. Of course, when we say feature, we mean the characteristics. You can see the picture of Alhaji Shehu Shagari. He was the president. By this constitution, Nigeria conducted election. Shehu Shagari contested and became the president. So he was an executive president, the first executive president of Nigeria. What were the features of the constitution? One, there was an executive president. And you can see Shehu Shagari there. He was both the head of state and head of government. So, as a condition, the executive president can stay in office for maximum of 4 years and could also come back if re-elected for another tenure. So, he's qualified to stay for 2 terms of 8 years. Each of the term is for 4 years if re-elected. So maximum 2 terms, for 4 years of 2 terms, which is 8 years. And the president can be removed from office through impeachment. He can be removed through impeachment. Again, before one can be president, the person must be a citizen of Nigeria by birth and must not be less than 35 years. The person must not be less than 35 years. Another feature is that there was vice president, which means that the president can nominate a vice from his political party and he becomes his running mate in the general election. Also, there was the National Assembly. The National Assembly was having 95 members of Senate and 450 members of House of Representatives. So it was a bicameral constitution, a bicameral legislature. So we also have another feature, which is that there were governors at each of the various states. So, and these governors were the chief executive of each state. And the governors were having deputy governors in their various states. Also, there was the principle of separation of power. Of course, this means that there was checks and balances between the legislative, executive, and the judicial arms of government. Also, there was federal character. When we talk of federal character, it is all about nomination or appointment by ensuring that it is spread across the length and breadth of the country so that no ethnic group whatsoever is cheated in the course of appointing people into governmental positions. Let's look at more features of the Second Republican Constitution of 1979. Another feature of it is that there were the exclusive, concurrent, and residual lists. So the exclusive list was operated on by the central government, while concurrent was both the central government and the state government, and then the residual list was strictly for the state government. Again, there was democratically elected local government. So there was local government chairmen that were elected they were elected officials within the local government so that there could be autonomy between the local government, state government, and the federal government. Again, there was the fundamental human rights. The Constitution, 1979 Constitution, made provision for fundamental human rights of the citizens. Within the provision of the Constitution also, the president was seen as the commander-in-chief. So he was the commander-in-chief of the armed forces. So with his position as commander-in-chief, he can declare state of emergency, he can as well declare war if need be, and so on and so forth. So he was the commander-in-chief of the armed forces. Again, the president was popularly elected by the people. It is the people who elect the president into the presidential position. It was not the national parliament as we have it in the 1963 Constitution, where the joint sitting of the Senate and House of Representatives elects the president, that is Nnamdi Azikiwe. But this time around, it is the people that elect the president, because as a president, he was an executive what? President. Let's look at some of the merits of the Second Republican Constitution of 1979. Merits. What are the various advantages? Merits. The merits of the Second Republican Constitution, the various advantages of the Second Republican Constitution. There are so many advantages of this Constitution. So many. But let's look at some of them. One of the advantages is that there was the executive president who was popularly elected by people. So he was accountable and responsible to the people, since the people elected him. And after 4 years, if he wants to get re-elected, he must satisfy the people before the people will choose to re-elect him. So he was answerable to the people because he was popularly elected. Another feature or another merit, is that there was separation of powers. In fact, this separation of power helps to reduce dictatorial tendency so that no leader will become autocratic. Another feature, another merit, was that there was the power of judicial review. Another merit is that there was the power of judicial review. This helps the judiciary to ensure that no arm of government exercises any power outside the Constitution. Again, there was fixed term of office for the president and even the governor. So, since there was fixed term of office, no one would perpetuate himself in power. When your tenure is over, when your tenure elapses as president, you simply go back home instead of perpetuating yourself in power. So there was fixed term of office. Again, there was the supremacy of the Constitution. The Constitution was supreme since the president was answerable to the people. So if he does anything outside the Constitution, definitely the people will hold him accountable. Again, the Constitution spells out the rights of individuals. The Constitution spells out the rights of individuals. With this individual, that is the masses, had rights, so that their rights were not being denied of them because of the Constitution. Let's look at some questions that you should be able to answer by now. These are feedback questions. Let's look at feedback questions. Feedback questions. Now, by now you should be able to, having watched this video to this extent, you should be able by now to tell me the various features of the Second Republican Constitution of 1979. 1979. You should be able to, what are the various features of the Second Republican Constitution? Again, highlight any five merits of the Second Republican Constitution. Any five merits. Alright, so let's look at the disadvantages, otherwise demerits of the Second Republican Constitution of 1979. The disadvantages, or if you like, demerits. What are the disadvantages? Let's look at the demerits. Of course, you can see a scale weighing positive side and negative side. We are looking at the demerits. There are some demerits or disadvantages of this constitution. They include impeachment clause. With this impeachment clause, the legislative arm can use it as a way of usurping the authority of the president. They can use it to harass the president and even make the president to dance to their will and caprices. For instance, in Kaduna, there was a governor that the legislative arm impeached, Banarebe Musa. For years, he was not allowed the commissioners he appointed were not approved by the legislature. They were not approved by the legislative arm. So the impeachment clause was a demerit, so that the president was no longer free to exercise some powers, that how he was not free to carry out his duty because of the impeachment clause, because the executive can easily threaten to impeach him. That is, the legislature rather can easily threaten to impeach him. So because of this impeachment clause, there was certain things that the president would be afraid to do. Again, another demerit is that the system was costly to operate. It was costly in the sense that it was financially demanding. Again, there is the disadvantage of federal character. So ethnic groups still felt marginalized because appointments were not based on federal character. Some regions were favored and other regions were left out of the whole thing of governance. Again, there was delay in the execution of programs. This is because of a whole lot of bureaucracy. If the president must carry out any function, he must seek the approval of the legislative arm. And all this leads to some delay. Again, there was concentration of too much power in the hands of the president. The president being the head of state and as well as the head of government, it means that he performs both ceremonial and executive function. So he was very powerful, unlike the president of 1963 that performed only ceremonial function. This president, as provided by the 1979 Constitution as a presidential system, carries out both the function of the head of state and head of government. So the president was very powerful after all. Again, there was the disadvantage where we could have possible conflict between the executive and the legislature. There is that possibility where there will be conflict, because there will definitely be conflict of interest. Since the president is not a parliamentary system, the president does not belong to the parliament. Rather, he is in the executive arm, while the legislature is in the legislative arm. So sometimes there will be conflict, especially conflict of interest between the executive and the legislature. Having watched this video, it is expected that you should be able to answer some evaluation questions. What are these evaluation questions? Let's look at some evaluation questions. Evaluation questions. 1. Discuss any 6 main features of the Second Republican Constitution of 1979, features of the Second Republican Constitution of 1979. 2. Identify 5 merits and demerits each of the Second Republican Constitution. 3. Highlight 5 differences between the 1963 and 1979 Constitution. 5 differences between the 1963 and 1979 Constitution. Welcome back. I believe that you have learnt all that I expected of you, following our lesson objectives. I also expect you to study your books and do your assignments until we meet again in our next class. Do have a wonderful time for yourself. Goodbye.